All right, welcome everyone. I'm so excited. This is going to be a very, very short session. I really just want to go over one more little thing having to do with Google Sheets and give you a little tidbit of learning. And then what I'm going to do is kind of give you an idea of what's coming in the next few days. So um, wow, yet again, if you were here last time, you saw the donut letters because I love donuts, but I couldn't use it twice. That just felt, I don't know, a little too over the top even for me. But I am excited. I am excited about all of you reaching out and talking about how excited you are, and I'm thrilled that all of this came together in my brain. I don't know. I was just, it all started clicking to me after multiple people came up and told me exactly what they needed. And I figured out a way to make this all happen. So more to come on that later, but I want to go ahead and move on. I do want to let you all know that as I promised, you do have the opportunity to win a free t-shirt. And all you have to do is stick around and also participate. So please, please, please talk to me in the chat. This feels really weird. I'm used to Zoom where I can see people's faces. I can't see your faces, but if you want to just like say hey and tell me who you are and where you're coming from, that would help me out tremendously. And then if anything else pops up throughout this little session that you want to chat about, please, please, please feel free to put it in the chat. And if you hang out the entire time, you can figure out how to get one of these awesome t-shirts. I have several, so I can give them out. Also, that's my little cutie. So that's Emmy. All right. So last time we talked a lot about. Hi, Rick. Welcome, welcome. Last time we talked a lot about Looker Studio, and I showed you all in the first session how to get your data onto Looker Studio. I showed you how to make a couple visualizations, and we talked a little bit about how important it is to set your data up correctly on Google Sheets before you then bring it into Looker Studio. And that's going to set you up for success. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can use just a really easy formula in Google Sheets that surprisingly not a lot of people know about. And I feel like it's super simple, but we don't talk about it enough. And that's just putting strings of text together is essentially what we're going to be doing. So let's take it a step further. I'm going to actually pull up my sample iReady data. And before I do that, I actually want to talk a little bit about this. Let's go back to presentation mode. When we were putting this table down here at the bottom, we had two different columns for first name and last name. And there is a way to join those on Looker Studio, and it's not difficult. And I'll probably go over that when I have all these sessions that I'm going to talk about later. But it is so much easier to get all of your data perfect on Google Sheets before you bring it in. But you'll see we have first name and last name. The problem with that is that Google, I almost said Data Studio, Looker Studio can only sort using two columns. So if you want to sort by name and grade, then you're sorting by last name, but then the first names might not necessarily be in the right order. So in order to be able to sort by name and then something else, you want to be able to combine that first name and last name all together into one column. So that's what we're going to be working on. And so we are going to go back to our sample data, and all I'm going to do is right click on column A and insert one column to the left. And I'm going to call this column name. This is going to be really quick and easy. So all I'm going to do is say equals. Equals means that we're going to be typing in some kind of formula. And our formula is going to be that we want last name. We're going to put an ampersand saying that we want to join it with a comma and a space. I'm putting that in quotations because it is a string. A string essentially means a string of characters that you don't want to separate. And then I'm going to put another ampersand, and I'm going to put first name. And what that's going to do is create a column with last comma first. Going from 2 different columns down to 1 column is super easy. It becomes a little bit more challenging when you go from 1 column to 2 columns. So if I wanted to pull apart Johnston, Heather into Johnston in 1 column and Heather in another column, that's when things get a little bit trickier, but it's not impossible. It's all doable. It's not that scary, not even that scary, but I'm not going to teach that today because I don't want your heads to explode. And that's a very powerful tool. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold down Shift and Control. That's going to, and hit the down arrow. That's going to select the rest of those cells. And then I'm going to hold down Control and hit D, and it's going to pull that formula all the way down. So that's perfect if you have a static set of data, which means that you're not changing it. I can just delete these little commas down here in the bottom. But there are also ways to set it up so that even if your data is changing and you want to be able to add that formula, even if you add more rows, there are ways to do that as well. Again, super easy. So that's the cool little trick that I have for you all today. And I am going to jump back over to the presentation because I want to remind us, if I can find it. There it is. Remind us again of what I've been talking about, not share, present. I'm really good at multitasking, I promise. Remind us again of why we are learning all of these tips and tricks and why I am introducing this new program. The goal is always an impact. As I mentioned in the last session, my name is Data Informed Impact for a reason. And that is because I truly believe that everything I'm doing is for the impact that it has on the students. So as fun as these Google Sheets are, and as fun as it is to figure out how to create a dashboard, the real goal of this is impact. And I've talked about how that can help you have an impact on your classroom or on your school. And then the next step, of course, is then to have the impact on schools outside or districts outside of where you are currently working. So if that is in your future, then you're in the perfect place. If not, it still helps. It still helps impacting more students that you have with you currently. So the question is, how do you get there? And that was the question that has been prompted to me time and time again. I've had so many people say, how? How did you get there? How are you doing what you're doing? I want to do what you do. And it's been a journey. But the cool thing is that I can take all of that learning and put it into a program so that it makes a lot more sense for all of you. And you don't have to spend as much time as I did going down every rabbit hole on YouTube or taking every computer science class you can find for free online. So what I've created for you is a certification program with 4 different levels. So it starts off with Looker Studio for beginners. Next is going to be Google Sheets for beginners. So we are starting with that dashboard, but then we're going to take a step back. The dashboard is always the most fun part. So that's got to be first. But then we're going to say, okay, there are more things we want to do on that dashboard on Looker Studio, but we can't do it until we have our data set up correctly on Google Sheets. So we're going to spend some time on Google Sheets. We're going to go through Google Sheets for beginners, and then we're actually going to take a step forward to Google Sheets Advanced, really nail down those key ingredients of what it takes to make a great dashboard. And then we'll come back to Looker Studio Advanced and put it all together in a really fancy, pretty picture. And you're probably wondering why I have those numbers on the sides. I haven't mentioned why there are 3s and 20s. So the 3s represent how many sessions go with each level. So for that first level, the Looker Studio for beginners, there are actually 3 sessions. If you've taken my Looker Studio workshop series, then you are currently participating in what those 3 levels will look like. It is diving into how to make dashboards on Looker Studio, some of the tricks that I showed you guys in these last couple videos, but expanding on that and really giving you the time to work through those as well. So 3 sessions for Looker Studio for beginners, 3 more sessions or hour-long sessions for each of the other levels. So all 4 levels have 3 hour-long sessions. And The third session is almost always a workshop. So you're coming in, we're working together, I'm answering all of your questions, we're figuring things out as you go, and you're getting that time to really practice. They are going to be available via replay as well. So you can either access them live at the times when I am actually sitting there at the computer, or you can watch them on the replay. The certificate is earned by either watching them and participating live for all 3 sessions, or taking a short quiz at the end of the level. So that's how you're going to earn that badge or that certificate that says Looker Studio for Beginners or Google Sheet for Beginners, Google Sheets Advanced, Looker Studio Advanced. And then we have the 20s. The 20s actually represent how many spots I have available for each of those levels. So I am allowing 20 spots for Looker Studio for Beginners and 20 spots for each of those other 3 levels. I do have, in addition to this, I have a couple bundles that you can purchase. And if you purchase the bundles, there's no limit on that. However, there is a time limit. I'm only leaving this open for 5 days, starting on Saturday. So that's your heads up. Put it in your calendars. It's going live on Saturday. If you want to just purchase 1 or 2 levels, you have to be one of those first 20 people. If you're purchasing a bundle, you don't. However, there will be bonuses for those of you who purchase early. So just a heads up, Saturday is the date that this all goes live. So my question to you is, are you ready? Because I don't think anybody ever asked me that question. I was just kind of thrown into the mix. And it was actually a really fun time. And the only downfall was that it took a lot of time. So my question to you is, are you ready to kind of be on the fast track to get the skill set down and be able to increase your impact for the students that you serve and perhaps other students out there? So if you have any questions, I'm going to leave this up for those of you that join in the replay. Feel free to put them in the chat. That way it gives me a heads up on what questions need to be answered as I send this out live on Saturday. I want to make sure that you guys know everything you possibly need to know when it's that time. So please, please, please put all of your questions in the chat. There will be plenty of time during those 5 days that this is open where I can answer any and all questions. That's 5 days to purchase your different levels. And then we will start, I think it's a week after that is when we'll actually start working through level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Levels 3 and 4, we go every week for 3 weeks for level 1, take a break for a week, and then every week for 3 weeks for level 2, and so on. So if you're on a typical school year contract, that means that your hardest levels are going to be during that summer break, which is kind of nice. So I plan to roll this out about this time of year, which kind of allows for that a little bit of extra mental headspace, that we don't necessarily have during the school year. And if you were here for this whole session, or at least here for the second half, I'll count that too. Please email me your name, your YouTube username, what size you want. And I didn't put your address. You need to send me your address too. So again, name, YouTube username, what size you want, medium, large, extra large for the shirts, and your address. Send it to that email. And for those of you that are here, you're going to get a fun t-shirt in the mail. So super exciting. I am hyped about this. I'm excited to finally find some answer to give all those people who are asking the question, how do I do what you do? I've got you. Got you covered. I forgot to mention there is an extra special session on AppScripts that comes after all 4 levels. You only get that if you bundle the levels though. So heads up on that too. So get ready for Saturday. I'm excited. I will make sure I notify all of you via email. And in addition to that, if you signed up for the calendar, it's at the bottom of all of the emails that I've been sending out. If you add that calendar on Google, then you will also have a notification on there as well. And be ready, because I am. All right, bye everyone. P.S. I like Zoom better. Don't tell YouTube.